Hello and welcome again to another edition of Sunday Huddle. I am so excited, as always, to be joined with Nathan and Bryan. Fellas, how are we doing today?
It's cold, but it's great.
Wonderful.
Wonderful. We are wonderful. As always, we are so grateful to be sponsored by Sports World and Brotherwood Coffee. There's a link in the bio, man. Purchasing that coffee helps to support what we do here at Sunday Huddle, and so we're grateful for their support. And, man, more grateful to have you with us today. And today we're going to talk about the subject of the topic of gossip. How about that?
Nailed it.
I did nail it, didn't I? So what do you think? So you know what? Starting off, kind of put us on the spot here. What do you think is what's a working definition of gossip? Have you thought about that in looking over this last time?
No, because to me, gossip doesn't work.
What is wrong with him?
I don't know.
A working definition of gossip. You thought about that? Yeah.
I probably should have.
No, that's okay.
Not in a nice, well put little sentence.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you probably have one.
No. I just kind of had some ideas about it, but go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So I would say gossip is whenever you are sharing privileged or information that is expected to be private, or when you are sharing things with the wrong intentions and motivations.
Yeah. Would you agree with that definition?
Yeah, I would definitely say it doesn't necessarily have to be private, but just, did you hear this happened about someone? We know what gossip is whenever we hear it.
Yeah. Or when you say it. You're about to say when you say it?
Well, I don't actually say
Was that
gossip.
a confession?
I don't do this gossiping thing that y'all do. No, I think we all understand what gossip is, and I think we also have a proclivity towards it. As being raised Baptist, you could always just say
he
things.
Just blamed it on the Baptist. He blamed his sin on the Baptist. Go ahead. Yeah.
You just say something about someone and then end it with "bless their heart."
Or if it's really bad, you parenthetically you bracket it. God bless them.
Yes.
And then you say, then God bless them, right? So if you bracket it, then it's covered by the blood.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and so
right.
we try to use it as a situation where we are. We're concerned about their character, and we want to be able to help constructively criticize them. But really, we're just talking a bunch of mess because it makes us feel good about ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
So we're going to start getting the motivation of it right there. So I think the definition is absolutely the working definition. I think the Scripture speaks of that, and then it amplifies it a little bit more. I have down that idle words are words that we do not speak. An idle word is a non-working word and an operative word having no positive function, useless, unprofitable, unfruitful, and barren. So I think that the biblical definition is maybe even expanded a little beyond that.
Right.
That it's something that's unprofitable. It doesn't help. It's not beneficial. So I think that you said, and then we'll go to Nathan. I think that you said you gave a little bit of. So why do we do this? Why do we engage? Well, not we. Why do you? Why do you engage in gossiping? Why do we do that?
My favorite. In reading in Proverbs, it's Proverbs 18:8. The words of a whisperer are like a delicious morsels. They go down into the inner parts of the body.
What a crazy! I have the exact same verse. So read that one more time if you have it there. Read it one more time.
The words of a whisperer, think gossiper,
right,
are like delicious morsels.
Yeah.
They go down into the inner parts of the body.
Yeah. So there's something enjoyable about it.
Right?
Yeah. In our sinful nature, something about us likes that.
And I think it all comes down to almost like a covetous nature in an aspect. We want to feel better about ourselves, and sometimes instead of just being better, we like to tear other people down, and we want to justify our situation based off of others, and it just feels good to tear people down because we're wicked sinners.
Amen. We are, especially you. Go ahead.
Yeah, for sure you. I think just this is like way rewinding, like the bless your heart thing.
Yeah.
I think it's like working with teenagers. It's always no offense, but and then
right.
like no offense, but like you look just really stupid today.
right.
So they think that's like the free pass now. Yeah, bless your heart.
Or can I tell you something? Yeah, and you have to be mean. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So just as Bryan pointed out, I think it makes us feel better about ourselves a lot of times. But also, I think sometimes we just like to, as humans, we like to be the ones with the information. We like to be the one that knows something. Like my toddler, nothing brings him greater joy in life than thinking he knows something that I don't know.
Yeah. Which is probably true, though.
So many things, a shocking amount of things, actually.
He is very
smart.
He has a smart boy, yeah.
He's always so excited, Dad, to come tell me something that he thinks that I don't know. And as a good dad, I act like I don't and respond. But I think that's part of it is we like to, hey, man, we like to be the one to break the news to someone or to share something because we feel, again, it kind of goes back to we just feel good about ourselves whenever we do that.
Oh, well said.
And it says, you mentioned, Bryan, the verse you read, it says whisper in there. And I noticed in, there's a million proverbs about gossip. And in the ESV, at least, it says the word whisper all the time. It says the word like whisperer. And like the idea of like the very like nature of it is like secretive. Is like when you whisper something, you're talking quietly, right?
Right.
You're like, you don't want other people to hear you. I get like the image of when you start to gossip, when you start to talk about someone or something like that, you lower your tone, and before you start talking and you stop, you just kind of check around real quick, make sure no one's walking by, and then you say it.
Right.
So that reveals a lot of the motivation behind it, I think.
Oh, no, absolutely. And it's also kind of funny because when we are doing that, I don't know, there's just something about when we are gossiping that the secrecy about it, I guess, is what I'm trying to get at, is that we know that we're not supposed to be saying it. We know that it's kind of hurting someone when we do it. And whenever it happens to us, we immediately think, how dare they?
That's
Who
right.
would talk about that?
That's right.
Or even worse, if we're like, oh, no one's talking about me at all because I'm awesome. Even though it just means everyone's
Though we are talking about you.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's where I think it's kind of fun that I say fun very loosely. We want to have these conversations with people that we think we're building relationships. Like, oh, let's talk about Nathan's hoodie under a coat because I guess he's frail and has no arm hair.
I think you look good.
I don't have much.
But I don't even know where I'm going with that. But no, in saying that, it's one of those things that I would whisper it to you because I don't want to hurt your feelings. But at the same time, I'm not a good friend, and why would I even care about your feelings if I'm going to talk about you in the first place?
Yeah, and I think that man, on gossiping, if we were to rank sins, like right now, I think sometimes we think this is worse than that other. Real quick, and just because it's so interesting to me, Proverbs 6:16 through 19 says, "There are 6 things that the Lord hates, 7 that are abomination to him: haughty eyes, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked plans, feet that make haste and run to evil, a false witness who breathes out lies, and one who sows discord among brothers." And the last two are certainly indicative of gossip, that it sows discord among brothers, and it also is a false witness, and we breathe out that same whisper. We breathe out lies. And the word of God somehow says that, hey, wait a minute, this is something God hates. Right. I'm going to tell you, like, all right, if we're going to put taking someone's life, murder, and gospel, we say, no, they're not the same thing. And God considers it to be a big deal, and it's a big thing.
You said in there, feet that haste to run to evil.
Yeah.
So when we find some juicy news, we got to run and tell them about it.
And that's what we do. That's exactly what we do. And we're complicit in it. And this is, I know we're good. You said, Proverbs is filled with them. I mean, one time, go look through Proverbs about all the times it talks about this. This is interesting. An evildoer listens to wicked lips. Wow. And a liar gives ear to a mischievous tongue. It's not just the sayer, the one who speaks the gossip, but it's he who hears it that the Bible condemns. That if when Nathan comes up and said, "Have you heard this about Bryan?" and I said, "I probably have," but what I should rightfully do if he's going to share some bit of gossip is to say, "Hey, wait a minute, I shouldn't hear that," right? Because I'm complicit in it if I choose to listen to it.
Yeah, for me, and when I think about like listening to it and hearing it, my like first year or second year in youth ministry, I was at youth camp.
He's just youth pastor?
Just the youth pastor.
Okay, I thought you were.
Just the youth pastor, as you usually say. We're at camp, and like before the evening, like worship time and everything, there's like the youth pastor meeting where we all get to pray together and stuff like that. And I mean, I was 22 or something at this time. Knew better, but didn't. And so we're at this meeting, and there's a guy in there that, man, he is just like, he was just like talking the whole time, and it was like just not self-aware at all. That hey man, the whole rest of the room is like, all right, let's go, let's keep this moving, let's get going. And then he finally stops talking, and the meeting ends. And I turned and I said something like kind of like a joke about it to one of the other youth pastors, and he stared straight at me and said no words for a long time, and was just really quiet. And I felt so uncomfortable and started backtracking. And it wasn't even until like later on that I realized, like, oh my gosh, like, because he wasn't going to partake in it because I was like totally not doing the right thing. Yeah. We just had this moment of prayer and everything, and then I turn immediately and make a joke about some other guy. Yeah. And he stares at me. So now I stole that, and that's kind of my approach a lot of times.
Oh, that's good.
If someone's gossiping, I'll just kind of just stare at nothing, or just stare at them and say nothing, and then usually people kind of backtrack it a little bit, but.
Or that was like his brother. And,
Yeah.
and he was
Or that. Oh man, new fear unlocked. I didn't even think about that.
You got to worry about. We've got to worry about the things you say to. Man, did not plan on this. So I'm working in high school, right? I'm working and I hadn't planned on sharing this. I'm in a high school, and during Christmas break, my best friend and I, his name is Heath Lodnick, and another guy, we'd work at Christmas tree lots. So he'd help tie Christmas trees to the top of the cars and everything as they take them off and everything else like that. And so one of my buddies, Heath, he would make fun of people, and there's customers that are walking in, because that's always a good way to endear yourself to customers. And this guy walks in with these huge like sideburns, and he starts going off on, look at the lamb chops on this dude, and the other dude standing and says, dude, that's my dad. And he had been, I'm talking about ripping him the whole time he was coming in, and probably the same kind of situation there. But
100%.
but often these things we say, these things we do, until we're made aware of them, it's just kind of something I think just kind of even can naturally happen if we're not careful.
I think so. Yeah, I think gossip is one of those things, like you mentioned ranking sins earlier. Like
Right.
we would rank it really low, right? It's one of those, and this is probably partially what makes it so dangerous, is it's one of those that we would all like raise our hand and say, oh yeah, we do that from time to time. And then like kind of in a like laughing at it kind of way, like it's not a big deal. But it certainly is a huge deal. And I think that's what makes it so dangerous, is that many of us acknowledge it, but then we just kind of like shrug it off and laugh it away and then continue on in business as usual.
I think we could even make it worse, and we've heard it done that way, where I bring to you a prayer concern. I have a prayer concern for Bryan, right? And through this process, so we've even masked it and made it spiritual, that we would engage in this sin that God calls equivalent to murder.
Right.
Yeah. So it's indeed, it's a big deal. I remember when Dawson was growing up, and I know I've shared this before, but Dawson was growing up, and Dawson was always saying something. He was always he hasn't changed at all. So he was talking a lot. He's a great kid, great young man, but always, and I literally taught him from the time, probably not much older than Brady. I really wasn't much older than Brady. And I would teach him this proverb in a version that he understood, and it's, in the abundance of words, there's not an absence of sin. In the abundance of words, and so he would just go on, and I could literally say, in the abundance of words, and he would finish, there's not an absence of sin, right? That he would know that, okay, that's my cue, that I need to stop talking. I need to do this. But again, the Bible, God takes this pretty seriously.
Oh yeah. Now I'm curious, because I've heard of plenty of instances of church discipline over the years. Why do you think that there's never been really church discipline in pertaining to gossip, or why it's really not viewed as serious as other sins?
Well, let's ask just the youth pastor.
I think in partial because it's just so common. I mean, I feel like we think like, oh, everyone's doing it kind of mindset, so we can't just kick every single person out of the church because everyone is gossiping. So I think that would be one way. Not saying that's a right reason to avoid it, but I think that's a reason that it's avoided a lot of times.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that you're right. We do rank it in a way that we shouldn't rank it, and we should treat it just as seriously. And in fact, I would suggest that a gossip, and your definition was appropriate, that it often, there's an element of that's not true about it. Mm-hmm. But the Bible goes on to say that if we have a brother who's in some sort of sin, and we come and we are able to point this out to him, and he repents, and he's made right with God, that perhaps that's something that no one ever else knows about. Mm-hmm. That the Bible suggests that, in fact, even if everything I said was true about this particular instance, the fact that this guy repented of his sin, got right with God on it, that no one else should know about it. How about that? So I think that's even one step beyond, hey, not only you're not to gossip, but even if something is true, and even if that person has done wrong, when they've repented and gotten right with God, then you're to say no more about it, because he's been reconciled to God.
So you're saying that we haven't heard about it because all the gossip was fixed?
Every single time in every church that I've ever been in. I think what happens is that people have been confronted with it, and they've just repented and gotten right with God.
Well, that makes sense then. No, that answers my question.
Can I tell you who looks stupid now?
It's always me.
You do. That's what I was telling you behind the church the other day. But always
behind that McDonald's.
One of us is stupid. We're not going to say who. That's not a secret. That's not gossiping. They all know who you are. So,
also fair.
So the thing is, but yes, so isn't it one step? That to me, that's even more. You know what? And even to say something like, hey, I talked to this person about that, they got right with God, would be something that God would call wrong. Yeah, right. What's your thoughts? You got some ideas on why we don't do that?
Oh, no, I think it's because everybody's doing it. That we don't want to call out something, because if I were to say, hey, I don't like it when you talk about someone, then you're immediately 30 seconds later, when I bring up something that's basically gossip, you're going to say, hey, you're one of them Criticize.
Easy for you to say.
Hypocrites is right. That was right.
One of the
Or taking a Hippocratic oath. Same thing. It's kind of different, but it's
almost
different.
identical. They call it practicing medicine for a reason. So that's what I think that it is that we're all so guilty of it that we want to overlook it. And I think that that's where we get into a situation of we're just accepting sin because it's inconvenient for me. I don't really like what the Bible has to say about it. So let's go into the bigger ones.
Yeah, and I like the quiet approach. I think it's actually pretty good. I have often, and I know that I've said this, whenever someone's had a problem with someone or gossiped or said something about something, as I've said, have you talked to them about that?
Right.
And I've done that many, many times. Hey, man, I hear your concern. I think that's something you ought to address with them.
Right. I heard, I think it's becoming something. Jonathan Pokluda is the one who talks about it.
Okay.
And he instigated this rule where if you come up and something is basically gossip, he says, hey, essentially, you've got 24 hours to tell this person what you said to me, or I'm going to tell them.
Wow, I like everything about that.
I agree.
I think twice about what I say to that person.
And specifically from the leadership position of doing that, it sends a message to the rest of the staff as well. And so that's where when you have the church body acting like that, and specifically church leadership acting like that, the rest of the congregation tends to fall in line.
Oh, that's so good. Yeah, and in fact, if you're sharing a bit of gossip and your heart is really to help that person, then this would help to do that. This would help to expedite that process where you're actually helping the person. But I do think that there is an element, to go back in full circle, there is an element of when we share something negative about someone that it causes us to feel a little bit better about ourselves.
Right.
And the judge not lest you be judged. We're back to our previous podcast episodes that's one that we're very, very leery to judge someone there because we're so guilty of it, right, that we recognize that it could reciprocate and be on us pretty quick.
So if we laugh in the gossip, we're basically complicit in it and just as guilty as the gossiper.
It says the hearer.
Yeah.
It does. It really does. And wow, who would have thought of that, right? That I didn't do it, they did it. But if I don't stop them through my silence, or if I don't address them and say, you got 24 hours to do it, that perhaps now I've been involved and engaged in sin.
Right, and I think that one of the reasons we don't think of gossip as big of a deal as other sins, one, because of how common it is, but also because it feels like a lot of times the fallout is not as bad as other big sins. So we would say some of the other sins that we've even talked about, like adultery and alcoholism and all that stuff like that, well, that has a bigger fallout on my life, right? But then maybe that's being dismissive of the severity that we see in Scripture, as we see in the Proverbs, and even Romans chapter 1, like groups it in with some like very serious other sins, groups gossip in there. So maybe we're just not always realizing the real fallout and implications of it. Because I think a lot of times, if we're the person that's gossiping, not only is it hurting someone else, but it damages my witness in a big way. Like I think it ruins our credibility. I often think whenever someone comes and talks to me, because I know I've been on the other end of this too.
Yeah.
When someone comes and talks to me, and it's gossip and about someone else, like one of the first things that goes to my mind is, man, like, what do they say about me to others?
That's exactly right. Yeah.
What do they say about me?
Yeah.
And then like that ruins trust and credibility. If someone gossips about us, so we need to be aware of the inverse of that too. Of like, man, that's going to ruin my trust with someone, which can take a long time to be restored.
Wow. Well said.
Right. So what if I'm just venting to you about someone? Is that considered gossip?
That's a great question. So I do think there certainly is a time for conversations that take place about things, about other people and stuff. So, back to it's always the easy one to pick on of like, there's some issue with Bryan and me and Jeff. Hey man, I think there is a place. And
we have, and it's not a gossip. We talk to his wife
We've
about it.
done it all the time.
Absolutely. Talk to Brady. Brady knows about it. Ask him. He'll tell you.
Exactly. He knows more than me.
He does.
And I do think there's a time and a place for conversation of like, for me to come to Jeff and, hey man, I'm concerned about Bryan.
That's right.
I'm concerned about the clothes that he's wearing.
That's right. Amen.
I'm concerned, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I think there's a place for that. But where it enters into a sinful situation and to gossiping, I think, is if it's something that I have no intention of ever addressing with you, I think that's a problem then. Or if it's something that, again, I'm telling Jeff this because it makes me feel better about myself. Because I'm like, man, Bryan's so stupid, right? But my clothes are not that bad, right? My clothes are cool.
Right.
Then I think, obviously that's that's a sinful situation then.
Would be exactly my answer. I think that there is something that we can say, hey, listen, I'm concerned about this brother for this reason. And I don't think that's gossip. And especially if perhaps I haven't engaged with that brother on the issue that I have, but I know that in getting with Nathan, this is all joking aside, I'd go to Nathan and Nathan could give me some wisdom and some insight, and we could work together. And either I would go to, and we keep pointing this way, it's so easy, but we could go to you, but it would be a way to do that. So I think that, and boy, isn't it like most things though? It's not necessarily the action. It's always the motivation behind the action.
Yep.
Because the same exact action can be right or it could be sinful. And God knows our heart as we do this.
Perfect. No, I completely agree. We've got to make sure our motivation, it always comes down to the cry of our heart. Is it to bring glory and honor and praise to God, or is it to make ourselves feel good with some pithy comment?
Yeah. Yeah. And then I think Nathan's specific insight too, that in doing so, we hurt our witness. Because as I said, if someone's going to, they know we're all friends and care for me. If somebody comes up and talks about you, I know they're going to talk about me. I'm an easy target, right? There's a lot to get. It's easy to find something to make fun of there.
So many.
Okay, that's enough. And so, but the thing is, I could see where that could take place. And so then it runs our witness. And then you think, if they come up and tell you something, can I tell them something in confidence? Could I come to Nathan and say, hey, Nathan, I wanted to tell you something in confidence. And this is what I'm struggling with. And this, would he be able to keep that and to secure that and to hold on to that, right?
Right. And as a church body, we are to be building each other up for the kingdom. And there's nothing edifying about gossip.
There's not. Yeah. It's singularly focused on us, poor motivation for doing so, and it hurts our witness. Yeah. Man, as always, guys, absolutely love being with you guys. Love Sunday Huddle. As always, man, please support us. Thankful for Sports World and Brotherwood Coffee. Man, there's a link in the bio. Hey, man, if you could leave a comment. We'd love to hear what you think of the podcast. We'd love to get some feedback, man. So follow us. We look forward to seeing you guys next week.
Peace.